most fascinating part to me. The residues inside some of these amphora, they were able to map that to be modern day Areni, the variety that we work with today.
Perhaps the oldest place in the world to make wine. However, they had no infrastructure to make wine. Take us there. How does a project like that start, and why?
Part of the reason there's an event that happened back in 2000, 2001 that attracted me to this. Was, you know, how life is, that something happens in your youth or in younger years, and then you put it away and you never think there's going to be another connection to it. And that was with Warren Winiarski at Stag's Leap Wine Cellars. When he was retiring, he celebrated all the winemakers that had helped him build his business. He gave us each a silver vial with 2 pips. It said Vitis Silvestris. And he said, this is from one of the world's oldest wine regions, Armenia. How he came up with this or why, he's an historian. So I didn't give it much thought. I put that away in my cabinet. And then years later, I met the Yakubian brothers, and they were very interested in doing a winery in Armenia, but they had no knowledge of what that involved. They took me there, showed me around, and then the tricky part was, okay, is there a place where we can make good wine? And if there is, what native varieties are there that would do well? And there was so little knowledge available. There was no training for young people to learn about wine. There were a lot of challenges. There was no way to get modern equipment into the country. In fact, after all these years we've been working, we finally got our first tractor made in Western Europe. And what a game changer. I mean, so slowly but surely, we just kept at it. And we bought a piece of property, 18 hectares, which is about 45 acres or so. And then shortly after that, good things happened. And one of the good things that happened was just below our vineyard was discovered what is now known as the world's oldest winery, over 6,000 years old, named now the Areni One Cave, after the variety that we chose to be our lead variety.
And that was just happenstance. You had no prior knowledge about that cave being there.
Yeah, it was totally happenstance.
So we could extrapolate to say it was intuition of knowing where to plant good wine. Who were the ancients? Like, would the Phoenicians have gone through there? The Romans, the Greeks? Like, who would have even gone? The Persians?
The Phoenicians and before the Romans. This predates, basically, we were taken by a historian into the catacombs of Yerevan, below the castle. There were some very old amphora, and they had markings on them, but they weren't like anything. So, well, what do these markings mean? And he said, well, this is kind of before people knew how to write. This is before hieroglyphics, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, they had some fascinating stories, why they designed the amphora in the way that it was, how it was buried, how it managed temperature, how they protected the wine. And then when they did the DNA work, which is the most fascinating part to me, on the residues inside some of these amphora, they were able to map that to be modern day Areni, the variety that we work with today. So I found all that's so fascinating.
It's incredible. But you had already decided to plant Areni prior to that knowledge. And
yes.
And so
to make that our lead variety.
Yeah. How did you acquire that knowledge?
Matthew, what happened is that there was a gentleman who had set up his own winery as a kind of a custom crush facility. And so it was pretty rustic and crude, but he had already been making small lots and trying to map these various indigenous varieties, of which there were quite a few, whites and reds. And so he allowed us to taste these small lot trials. And so we sat down with him. Vahe Kirshkirian is his name. In fact, he's in the Cup of Salvation, Sam TV.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I'm in there too. But at any rate, for a little plug, but at any rate, he's the one that really helped us sort out. By that tasting, kind of all came to the same conclusion, that Areni was most likely in southern Armenia, because I was also looking in the north of Lake Sevan. But we settled on, at least also it was more politically stable, on this region where was high elevation, drier, and we thought that's where Areni would do well. And also there was a town there by that name, so we figured there's a great history here with this grape variety. So a number of things like that just kind of clicked.